We good?
We're good.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to get something out of the way. And that is that I've never asked someone to do a podcast interview only to have them show up with a complete entourage, including bodyguards, one of whom is from Switzerland, and the other, I don't even know where the other guy was from. Very sketchy looking.
It's very sketchy. He's from Florida, little company called V-Trips, yeah.
And then rolling in with your ladies in a separate door, drink in hand. Like, is this the way that you appear at all events these days?
This is how we roll. Matt, how do you roll? Like, when you walk in somewhere, what do you do? I mean, you've got your entourage.
No, I'm just very confused all the time trying to figure out where I am.
And this is very difficult work. Someone must do it.
I don't believe that.
Where are we?
We're in your hometown. This is your turf.
This is.
We're on your territory.
And
which is why I brought an entourage.
In order to defend yourself?
Yeah, we never know, right? I need some muscle.
The last time we hung out in New Orleans at your women's summit, even though you were very busy during that event. And then before that, we had dinner at Arnaud's here in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And you gave me a little tour, and that was I was still new to New Orleans. We have more people. Okay, I need to describe to the listeners who just walked in the door. So first of all, you have Simon sitting on the couch. Simon Lehmann, a lot of industry people would know him.
And we all have a role to play.
Then you have Amy's entourage, which is 3 beautiful women, including Steve Milo.
And his name is Steve Milo.
All just walked into this room with their drinks in hand to listen or something.
Right. It's a listening party.
Shooting me like stairs. Hi, I'm Matt. I'm the founder of VRMB and the host of the Vacation Rental Show. And this is season 4 of Unlocked, the Tiny Architects edition, in which we travel to meet the world's most innovative vacation rental professionals in their element and find out what makes them so special. This is Unlocked. New Orleans is a place in your heart, right?
It is.
What's
First time
the
I got drunk
connection?
here.
As a human?
As a human being.
Which was when?
First time I got completely drunk was at Pat O'Brien's on 3 Hurricanes, which, by the way, never drink 3 Hurricanes, like, ever in your life. They taste like Kool-Aid.
Well, how old
were you? So at the time, it was 18 to drink here. So let's just say I was 18. We'll just go with that.
And this was, for you, the closest thing to home.
This was the closest party town to home.
Which was, where was home again?
Indianola, Mississippi.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, good times.
And that's where this accent comes from?
Yes.
Indianola.
Indianola, Mississippi. Cotton and catfish.
Is that where you were born?
No, I was born in Omaha. But my parents moved to Mississippi when I was 6 months old.
And that's where you went to school? That's where you developed the twang? That's where you ended up going to college as well? No.
Yes, I went to the University of Southern Mississippi. Yes.
And was it normal for people to make just trips into New Orleans?
Absolutely.
That was like
Southern
the weekend
Miss
thing?
is only, Hattiesburg, Mississippi is only about 2 hours from here. It's actually an hour and a half now that they actually put interstates in.
Now that I'm thinking about it, do you remember we wandered into that place where there was live music and there was a guy that went to high school with you?
Oh my God.
Remember that?
Yes.
I remember that too.
I remember.
Okay, so New Orleans is like an interesting place for you. And what are all these vacation rental people doing here this week?
So the Vacation Rental Management Association is hosting its big international conference. It's supposed to be bigger than ever at this show. And so right now what we've got is a lot more global players, a lot more multi-destination managers, a lot more money is here than we've seen before. So when I first started coming to this conference, it was 2007, and it was here. My first VRMA show was actually in New Orleans.
I remember it. It was at the Hilton,
yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah.
And by the convention center, right. So they had, this is funny now because they had a under 40s group that was meeting there. It was like a new, like, Gen X.
The youngsters.
The youngsters, which have met Amy Gaster, who's here right now, as part of my Mafia Cat crowd.
She was part of Gen X?
Yeah, we all met there. Actually, there were a bunch of us that met at that particular party or meeting.
And I think it's fair to say that every year since VRMA has grown, the events, yes?
Yes, with a couple of exceptions just because of locations that weren't quite as accessible than others. But yeah, no, there's been a pretty steady trend in the conference attendees, but sadly not as much so in the membership. So they've had some, peaks and lulls in their membership, but I still think they're under 1,000. No, actually, I think they're under 800 property management companies that are actually members of VRMA.
And do you know what the expected attendance is this year?
I think it's 2,000. We took them 1,900 magazines, so.
Yeah. So you came here. This particular trip
Yeah.
was a little weird.
Right.
You did not fly like
No.
most normal.
No. We had to courier over magazines. So we unloaded, Connie and I, she's here too, we unloaded almost 2,000 magazines and took them downstairs this time because we had to beat the press, largely because we wanted to get in an article about this company called Inhabit IQ. So we got that interview at the last minute. So in order to move everything around and get it in, we ended up pushing back our press date. So we couldn't get the magazines here without actually physically picking them up.
And this
and bringing
magazine
them
is
here.
VRMIntel.
Right.
If people don't know about it, it's a
Yeah.
magazine that's distributed basically everywhere vacation rental publications are sold
In the U.S.
in the U.S.
Yeah,
And
but
it's not uncommon for me to be in Europe and just see a copy of your magazine sitting on someone's
I
desk.
tell you, the first time you told me that, I don't even know what to say what the feeling was, without being vulgar. It was an amazing feeling to know that, to see just have someone send you a picture of your magazine in Spain.
And
That's cool.
You wanted to have the magazines here at the event.
Right.
Which is why you physically needed to
Right.
courier them. Okay. And they're going to be distributed throughout
They will be in the conference bags.
in the conference bags.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. And I want to get to that Inhabit IQ thing in a moment because that's a lot of information for me to process.
Me too.
But we were in the process of learning how you even found yourself in this vacation rental industry. You went to school. You certainly weren't studying vacation rentals.
No.
What were you studying?
Political science,
Why you cackle when you say that?
because I didn't go to class. We were in New Orleans more than we were in classrooms.
Did
so.
you pass at least?
I barely passed. I ended up taking a 2-year break in college and then going back and getting my degree. But it was a long, messy path along the
And
way.
my guess is that after graduation, you went straight into politics.
Oh yeah, no. The second going back, I went into my degree is in finance.
Oh,
Which is ironic, and I have to call everyone when I hear about recapitalization or funding news to actually, what is a Series A, what is a Series
what
B?
what were you doing with that?
I don't know. I just wanted to get out. I just wanted to be done with school. School's not for everybody.
No more tests. Just
No more
done with
tests,
it
just
all.
graduate, yeah.
I felt the exact same way. But so professionally, where did you end up? I mean, I'm trying to trace the tracks that lead us to.
So when I grew up in Indianola, Mississippi, we vacationed in vacation homes. My parents didn't take us to hotels. We went to Gulf Shores, Alabama, which actually this area outside of Gulf Shores called Fort Morgan, Alabama. We vacationed there every summer. In the fall, we would go someplace like Gatlinburg or Branson, Missouri, but we never stayed in hotels. We stayed in cabins and beach houses. And so it was just for me, vacations were about homes. They were never about hotels. Hotels for me, even as I grew up, were still only about business or going to some event, like a football game or something like that. But it was never a vacation to me always, and still does. Still means staying in a home. So naturally on that, I started working in marketing. And as a administrative assistant, actually, making $10 an hour at Compass Media. And we had a bunch of tourism clients. So I ended up growing in that company and taking over some marketing divisions at that point. And then taking an in-house marketing job at Kaiser Realty, which was bought by Wyndham.
Oh, so we're getting close to, what was that?
Connie was, sorry. we have Connie, we have a long history. Connie and I used to work together at Kaiser Realty before she went to Turnkey, but she spent 24 years at Kaiser Realty.
Okay,
Yeah.
and this was kind of
So she was in charge of reservations, and I was in charge of marketing. So we made it a sales and marketing team, like you would see at a regular company, And so we worked really, really closely together to grow the company, and we did a pretty good job while we were together. Yeah.
And this was entailed vacation rentals as we know them?
Vacation rentals,
Yes.
as we know them.
Okay.
Yeah. Gulf Shores, Alabama, Kaiser Realty.
And Gulf Shores is still a place that you hang out often.
yeah,
I see
quite
you
a
every
bit.
now and then there.
Yeah.
It's posts on your
It's
Facebook.
a great beach.
I have never been still.
Well, you're coming.
And it's only like an hour or
It's
two?
only like 2 hours from here.
Yeah,
Two
I would
and a
like
half.
I would like to go. But how does someone who gets started like that, which sounds fairly commonplace or maybe just serendipitous, turn into the Amy Hinote that we all know today? That doesn't happen overnight.
Well, actually, I got let go from Kaiser.
Okay.
I did. And then I ended up taking a job at Instant Software, which was a company that was purchased by HomeAway. And from there, HomeAway wasn't exactly where I wanted to be. When I was doing marketing for vacation rentals, working with HomeAway was a challenge. VRBO, or Verbo as we know it today, was had taken a lot of our owners. Like, homeowners moved from being professionally managed to feeling like they could do it themselves. And so we saw a huge exodus from property management during that time. And so we all blamed it on HomeAway and VRBO, now Verbo. And so we just
I like how you always make that clarification.
I'm working through it in my head, like, I'm still trying to make the change. But
and by the way, have you heard what I started calling my company?
no, what?
VRMB.
VRMB.
Yeah.
Mine is VRMIntel, like vermin.
VRMIntel.
I like it.
I like it, yeah.
Totally.
And those early HomeAway days, I feel like that's when maybe we first met at one of those events, you and I. And you had sort of
We did. We met at the HomeAway owners show in Phoenix.
Phoenix.
That's right.
Precisely. Brian Sharples.
It was.
Were you doing your news stuff and VRMIntel as we know it back then? No.
No, I
Right.
was working at Vacation Store Builder and building the data platform. Yeah.
So this was also, I would say, very visionary. The idea of creating a platform like that, and describe, for those who don't know it, describe what the idea behind that business was.
So the company is now called Key Data Dashboard. I don't have any interest in it anymore. I sold my position in it, but it's a place where vacation rental managers can contribute their data, and then be able to see the other data in their market, so they can look at how they're doing against the market. So my average daily rate was $200 a night, but the market's average daily rate was $195 a night. Great. Or occupancy rate or whatever. And so they're about, I don't even know what they're up to in metrics right now, but they're in a number of KPIs, that key performance indicators, that property managers can look at in their own business and compare up against the market.
But it was just your instinct to like create a data.
Well, we
base?
needed it. It was like in the hotel industry, Smith Travel, now STR Global, everybody's rebranded, everybody's pivoted. It's hard to keep up. But Smith Travel at the time had a benchmarking tool that our Convention and Visitors Bureau looked at quite a bit. So when you looked at what the industry needed, I felt like having like real data, not self-reported data, not, very, like, so what we did is we worked with integrations in the property management systems to actually bring source data into the system. And that was, I think, the key differentiator the nut that I was trying to crack,
And
that
then
was the problem to be solved.
How do you make money off of that sort of data?
So it's a subscription-based service. So kind of like the Inner Circle, people pay a monthly fee and...
Nice little plug there. By the way, I have a little gift for you.
Do you have a pen?
I got a pin for you.
Yay!
Apparently, you have not received your pin yet.
I do have a pen, actually.
I do. It'll look good on that. Really pop.
It's very Saints-ish.
It
Not
is
all black.
It is. You are very Saints with a little gold shimmer.
Right.
And that you were the creator of that tool originally?
I went through about 4 different developers to try to get that done, actually.
I remember those days.
Yeah, it was
actually.
rough. It was really rough. I spent a whole lot of time and money going in and out. But I built VRMIntel thinking that we needed a place to educate, like, about what these KPIs are and market performance. And it was supposed to be an education tool for the data platform. But while I was failing at data, VRMIntel started doing better. So I just started learning more about the industry and talking to more people and doing more interviews, still trying to get this data program kicking, but VRMIntel took on a life of its own.
It did.
Yeah.
It is now very much stands alone in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah, no, it's
pretty proud
it
of
has
that.
its own challenges, its own life, yeah, and its own profit, yeah.
And that's primarily advertisers that pay to...
It is. It's advertising based, so the property managers don't actually pay for it.
And so this role as VRMIntel now, kind of fast forwarding to more or less today, you have an interesting position within the industry. People come to you with their news, some interesting, some probably not interesting. You have people who are looking probably for your input on consulting matters. You have all kinds of like people like asking for a bit of you. I have a gazillion questions here. Indicative of the vacation rental industry at the moment right now? Lots of things happening?
Lots of things happening.
Maybe more than has ever been happening before.
It's incredibly difficult to keep up with.
And how do you do that? Just
I don't. I simply don't. I get scooped all the time. I mean, you can't write it all every day, and I don't. I do try to focus on what's important. Like, so if a story does come up that I know is critical to the property management community, I'll do that. But if it's just something that the investment community is interested in, or my advertisers are interested in, or whatever, I do screen that through. I try to focus on serving up news and information for professional property managers being the core.
okay, so let's talk about that a bit, because I noticed that a lot of headlines these days are all about venture capital, and they're all about gigantic companies making these moves and that move. And do you oftentimes get concerned for the independent property manager?
All the time. I mean, and more so than I think I should, in the sense like Sarah Bradford.
Hi, you've reached Sarah Bradford at Steamboat Lodging Company and Winter Park Lodging Company.
She was talking about at a Breckenridge event that she was surprised to see that "Don't Give Up" article on the cover of VRMIntel, because she's like, why would we give up? Because in my view, it's like everything is coming at this industry. But for most of these property managers, they've got their stuff under control. I mean, they know what they're doing, and I mean, their companies are in the black. And I think that's the big differentiator. We've got so many new companies out there, a lot of funding coming in. These companies aren't in the black, they're in the red. They're operating in a loss with the hopes of funding. And this is where I get lost in this. It's like, even with the finance degree, it's like all of this new money coming in where a VC starts funding it, then they get private equity money, and then the private equity company decides to recapitalize it, bring in other private equity companies, then take out their money so that they don't have a loss. So essentially, it's like almost like musical chairs, or more like Dirty Santa, which is a U.S. game, by the way, that, you end up with the bad gift at the end. So whoever is the last person holding the bag, like that's the person
short
who
end
loses.
of the stick.
Right, exactly. So your goal is to get in, fund, make whatever X return on your money, and then get out, pass it up the buck down the road. Whether or not the company ever reaches sustainable or profitable status doesn't seem to matter. And that is so counterintuitive to what these property managers do. I mean, they
It's
run
almost the
sustainable
exact inverse
business.
of that.
Oh, yeah, exactly. They care about their destinations. They promote their destinations. Like, they provide for their employees and their employees' families. Like, there's a huge difference today, and it's not just our industry, but it's like sustainable businesses versus funded, this like fake money monopoly world is what it feels like. And it's a difficult, like in my mind, it's hard to keep up with, but I don't think for people like Amy Gaster or Kyung, who's sitting here, or Steve Milo, it's probably not as difficult to keep up with.
It is new. Is it new that the market is being heavily consolidated? Europe has become a booking.com continent for hospitality? No.
Thank you, Simon.
What's the worst that could happen from that influence?
Existential? Like,
If you want.
I mean, I think the worst thing that could happen to me is, like, for instance, a Vacasa continuing to buy and buy and buy, and then not being able to service homeowners or guests, and then contribute to regulatory issues from their lack of safety, lack of service, lack of being able to actually do what they say they're going to do. And then that brings the whole industry down. For instance, trust accounting, being able to escrow money for homeowners is something that's best practices in most of these local companies, but these large companies don't do it. So it's like, if all of a sudden a Vacasa were to do what LeisureLink did and go belly up owing people money, that would be a huge stain on the industry. And I think that's probably one of my fears on the PM side.
And for those who don't know it, a quick summary of the LeisureLink situation was...
LeisureLink was a channel manager who was merchant of record. And so they took advance deposits in and didn't pay out until the date of the stay, day after the stay. I'm trying to remember. I'm looking
Is
at...
this your market research?
Yeah,
firm?
this is my market research. When did LeisureLink pay out, Steve?
30 days prior.
30 days prior. Okay, so then when they went under, they left owing a lot of people money. They had taken money and they weren't paying the property managers on the back end.
And that kind of stain can...
Well, it was bad on the professionally managed side, but it didn't affect the guest. But now, you're talking about what could be the big threat here, is if one of these mammoth companies were to get to a point that the music stopped, and they're the ones holding the bag and they can't pay out to the homeowner.
So what does the independent manager do to protect themselves from that happening, or is it totally out of their control?
I think the only thing the independent manager can do is run a good business in their destination and continue to service the locals, so that the story is local. It's not a global story. I think for you, for me, for Simon over here, we look at things on such a global level right now because we have to. But the real story of our industry is actually in market. The real money in our market, the real money in our industry is in market. It's the local companies that are making money. It's the local companies that are protecting the home investments that these owners have. They're managing these multi-million-dollar assets for people that, including things like vetting guests, including managing the home, taking care of it, providing reporting, trying to get them to continue to upgrade the home. That's not what you see at some of these larger companies.
This is Sean Miller, the president of Point Central. As a sponsor of the podcast, and also as a person who recently beat Matt in a one-on-one basketball game, we have the opportunity to interview Matt in this season's podcast. Well, we're going to save the full interview for the end of the season. Right now, we're going to share a small tidbit with you. Enjoy. Is there one lesson to share with the listeners that, hey, if you were starting your own management business, this would be something you want to do from day one?
Yes. And I actually got to do a shout out to Steve Milo, who I interviewed episode 1 of last season in Barcelona. I was there with you. And he taught me something that is going to sound so simple and silly almost and obvious, but I only then finally understood it. And it was that you must run your business at a profit. He said, if you're running your business at a profit, you are in so much more control. You are able to be so much more choosy about the kinds of companies that you work with, kinds of properties that you're managing, kinds of guests that you're accepting, and vice versa. If you're not operating your business at a profit, you become susceptible. I am not someone who always puts money first. In fact, I'm notorious for forgetting about the money thing. But that's actually irresponsible from a business perspective, because if you're not putting profit first, you run the risk of failing. And so I take that and I basically implement it in what I do, and I encourage all the other owners and managers who are so supremely passionate. And they think to themselves, no, it's okay. I don't have to worry about profits nearly as much. I'm passionate. That's great until the money challenges you to continue to keep going. So I like to look at it as this necessary evil. You must be running your business at a profit in order to continue enjoying the passion. And if you don't, you're out of luck. All right, enough interviewing me. If you want to learn more about Point Central, head over to pointcentral.com/VRMB. You can sign up for a free demo, get free HVAC analytics, and Sean's team takes incredibly good care of people. Now let's get back to the show. Single favorite meal on the planet?
Oh, pizza, all day, every day.
Wait, from
Pizza.
where?
It doesn't even matter.
Any pizza.
Totino's pizza is fine. Like the $1.25 at the grocery store.
When I travel, one of my favorite questions to ask a taxi driver, I tell them, I say, in my country, if you do something really bad, they put you on death row. And just before they kill you, you can choose whatever meal you want on the planet. It's a weird thing that we do. And first of all, the taxi drivers can never fathom that. It's a very strange little conflict. But it's a nice way to find out where you should eat. Where would you go if it's your last meal in XYZ?
In New Orleans?
Well, for you, it would be Totino's.
It's so funny because I think you might be able to get to the age now,
To the what?
youngster.
To
You
the
might be
age.
getting to the age now that you appreciate your time at home.
I certainly do.
So it's like if you had one more night, it may not even be going out. It may be at home with your friends or your family. Like it's because we travel so much right now that it's hard to, you know what I mean? Like it just sometimes it's just like I just want to stay home in my PJs with a bunch of wine and a bunch of Totino's pizza.
That's like a dream scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
What is one unspoken storyline that you think is worth sharing?
So the thing that I don't write about, because I'm so focused on the professional property manager, is that some of these local companies have inventory that's older. They've worked with homeowners for a long time, and that inventory isn't improving with the standards of vacation rentals as lodging today. So I stay in a lot, you stay in a lot. And some of these homes are really, really tired. But I know these homeowners have been with these companies for a long time, so I'm sure it's a difficult balance. But I never ever, because I'm writing to the professional manager, I never write about that piece of it. But I think
Why don't you address it?
because there's so many people addressing the problems on that side right now, on the guest side, that I don't feel like I have to, because that's not who's reading, But I do think that there's an expectation that guests have in lodging right now, and some of the homes that have been on people's programs for decades are not meeting those standards. And I kind of skip over that quite a bit, and but I think it's an issue.
And one of my little unspoken things that I don't talk about often is how much more in common I believe rent by owners have with property managers than they have apart. And yet they view each other kind of like necessary evils often.
But less and less.
Less and less.
Yeah.
Right. So what is that trend that you're noticing?
So I think it's about the home now. It's like it's about the home and the guest, and it's like what we're looking for now is a professional home, a professionally managed home. Whether that's professionally managed by a company or professionally managed by a homeowner is not overly important at this point, but professionally managed is the key. But a lot of homeowners don't know what that is. So it's like there are forums out there right now that I adore. They're fun to watch, and I learn a lot from them. But there are forums out there where homeowners say things like being frustrated that a guest didn't wash their dishes right before they left, or being frustrated that there was a stain on a sheet. And I'm like, or worse yet, they asked them to do their laundry before they leave. Like, that's done. You know what I mean? So professionally managed is professionally managed. And I just feel like staying in vacation homes is incredibly valuable for families and for people. I mean, like, it's a different experience to stay in a home over a hotel. So I don't want to lose it because a bunch of people weren't safe and, and responsible in how they put these homes out there. So I think that whole idea, there are plenty of professional RBOs out there. And there are a few not so professional VRMs out there right now. But I think it's about elevating the service to the home right now that I think everybody's really working hard to do.
Whenever I'm sitting with a very progressive manager and a very progressive RBO, they are each learning so much from one another. The manager is like fascinated with these little limited edition touches that they're doing and making every single guest feel special, things that the manager simply can't afford because they have 200 properties. And vice versa. The independent owners is fascinated by the systems and the technology and these things that they have never even fathomed. So maybe ultimately a little bit more mixing between those groups is a good thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I would love to see a homeowners expo or something like that one day where we actually bring both sides together.
Heather did a fantastic independent.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I wish she'd do it again.
We should?
She should.
She should. Oh,
Yeah.
I thought I heard a rumor that you were going to do it.
We were going to work together on it, and we just never really figured out. We'll figure something out.
Okay. What are the role of these events in our industry? We attend them often, but
Yeah.
most professionals don't. The vast majority of people don't actually physically go to the
that's a
things.
good point.
What is the allure here? What is the why?
I don't know if some of it is just like, I just want to be around people who are feeling my pain right now.
Yeah,
like,
a support group.
A support group, right.
Bring me my wine.
Right? Like my entourage here is a full-on support group.
Yeah.
Like,
And there's
like,
great
hi,
value.
my name is Amy.
There's so much value in that when you work on your own
Yeah.
and you think that you're the only one fighting these challenges in the world, and suddenly you have others who can feel your pain.
Yeah.
That's a nice
exactly.
feeling.
It is.
Okay, so stress relief.
Stress relief.
Yeah.
It's a social event too, for a lot. I think there's always a hope that you're going to find education. And I think there's always a walking away from it like I already knew that.
Right.
Like, so there's like there's always this expectation that you're going to learn something brand new. And you really do.
And
you do. I mean,
I'll
like,
tell
we
you the
all
last
do.
thing I
Yeah.
learned at your conference from Elizabeth Gilbert.
No.
By the way, every single girlfriend of mine was like super jealous that I got to hear her speak.
She was amazing.
She was.
She was.
That is what the path is that you're supposed to lead. And I'll give you the trick. Here's the magical thing. If you do that, if you're willing to just release yourself from the pressure and the anxiety surrounded by passion, and you just humbly and faithfully continue to follow the trail of the hummingbird path, going here, going here, going here, going here, and you just trust it, one of these days you just might look up and realize, oh my word, I am exactly where I'm meant to be.
And that was not even a vacation rental themed talk, right?
Right.
Is this an interesting idea for us to begin at these conferences, bringing in people who are not in the vacation rental industry?
I think so. I think there's a real opportunity for that because, I mean, especially with the amount of money that VRMA could put in an event, a 2,000-person event, to bring in someone known that you respect, an author or somebody that you've all listened to that's helped you in your life, and be able to hear from them, I think that's pretty valuable. We're looking at the girl who wrote You Are a Badass for the Women's Summit on the next one.
You're getting a delivery.
Getting the delivery. You see me?
What is that?
It's the Women's Summit pin that we're passing around at this
Oh, you're
show.
doing pins? Let me see.
There's a code on it.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's I like you, you like me, which is something Elizabeth Gilbert said at the show. And the whole idea at these conferences, it's hard to meet people that are new, and it gets really overwhelming. So it's like, and I was asking her, how do you connect with people? Like, how do you get past the fear? And she's like, I learned this, and it was Martha Beck that she referenced that taught her this, that I like you, you like me. And so when you meet someone, you think, I like you, you like me. And in that, it goes both ways. Like your demeanor changes when you think someone likes you.
Right.
And
When
they're
that's
not
the starting
judging
point.
you. Exactly. You don't have to be defensive, but it's also what she said, it's an opportunity to practice compassion. It's not just that I think that you like me. Now I'm like, I like you. I want to know more about you. And so this was just a reminder to all of us that when you see this, it's like, okay, get out of your head. I like you, you like me, and we're good here.
And do you do that like with strangers on the street?
No, I don't.
Okay, because that could be.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
I like
But
you.
No,
You like me. Like,
I'm
okay.
defensive like 99% of the time.
This is only within like company that we kind of.
Right, exactly.
Okay. What are you expecting out of the next few days? This is my second to last question. Penultimate, second use of that word today. My mother would be proud. What are you hoping to glean from the next few days?
I'm hoping on this show, the last time in Vegas, I spent a lot of time going to the global sessions, going to the ones that were like Expedia and Booking and, just kind of the overall views of the industry. I'm not doing this time. I'm actually spending a lot more time in the property management sessions about marketing and operations and a lot of the round tables where people are discussing the things they're concerned about. Part of it is I want to know what to write. I think I've gotten too out of my head into this global world that includes like
Frenzy.
8 different sectors of short-term rentals, and I say that with quotes, air quotes. But it's like I don't want to do that right now. I want to spend a little bit more time listening and a little bit less time trying to learn something new. Like I just really want to focus on where everyone is right now and what they're really thinking and what profitable businesses are doing. I'm not as concerned right now with what all the funded business models are doing to need more funding.
Right.
Yeah,
it's almost like we've lost track of what the real magic is.
Right, exactly. And you focus on that all the time. And I'm so grateful to you, especially with all the limited edition stuff. It's just like really focusing on the individual guest experience, the individual homeowner experience, like what it means to be a part of this ecosystem in terms of what it means to stay in one of these homes. Congratulations, by the way, on your show.
Oh.
I'm so excited for
SN.
you.
OMG.
OSN.
Yeah.
The Vacation Rental Show premieres October 4th at these times on OSN Living.
TV, baby.
TV, prime time.
Prime time in the Middle East.
I'm sorry, in Mississippi, prime time.
Prime time, but in the Middle East and North Africa.
It's amazing. I know.
My dad made me a shirt.
But
On the
yeah,
back
how
it says,
cool is that for the entire industry?
I think it's exciting.
Tell me at the back of the shirt.
On the back it says, I'm big in the Middle East.
I'm big in.
And then in parentheses, and North Africa. I'm not going to wear that one out of my house. It's another one to keep within family. That's very exciting. Thank you for the kudos. But my last question for you is about this inhabit thing, which is, for those who don't know it, a company called GSV, please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to try to summarize it, has been slowly acquiring various vacation rental companies that range from marketing to software, and is in the process of kind of like quietly trying to roll it up, maybe not so quietly once you got a hold of it, and now has changed their name in some effort to remain
So they had done
unidentifiable?
this on the prop tech on the long-term multifamily side. So they had property brands there. So when they started doing this roll-up, and I hate the word roll-up, so I apologize, GSV, but the vacation brands on this side. So what they did is they put them all together, which means when they purchased these companies, they did them pulling levers of cash to the owners of the company, and then some shares in the roll-up, and then some earn-out over time based on performance, which is key to watching these companies as they go forward. But when they rolled it up, everyone got shares in the broader Inhabit IQ. So Inhabit IQ now is the long-term management software. They call them all technology companies, which I agree with you. They're not all technically technology companies, but you've got the long-term side, you've got the short-term side, and they put this all together under Inhabit IQ. I suspect that the equity portion of it, that the short-term people, their shares maybe weren't valued at the same that the long-term were, based on some comments I've gotten recently. So,
But is this something we should be concerned about? Who should be concerned about this? Who should worry?
it was kind of okay until they bought iTrip. And I think that franchise model is what made everyone kind of stop and think, what are they doing? Like, they say that it wasn't, that was a tech play, that it wasn't a PM or property manager play. But they also said that they were trying to grow the franchise model, and the franchise model is naturally competitive with local management companies. So I don't totally know where they're headed right now. I mean, right now, they're just trying to create a company that has a value at a certain point so that they can recapitalize and bring in some more funding in, get their money out, continue to hold shares, and then continue to bring people in and recap it at a higher rate. I think this last thing they posted is a 21 times EBITDA, which is a fairly strong multiple for any company in our industry. So it's interesting to watch because it feels a lot like a game and a lot less like a business.
It's 7:58.
Your people are coming.
The only way
Heather
I could...
Bayer.
Heather Bayer just crashed the podcast. I love it. This is like the best party crashers ever.
Yeah.
I would like to end this by saying how much I admire you, because you are like one of the most courageous business people that I know, and that's been true since the very beginning. And I always tell you these things when we speak privately. And it's really neat to watch. I think the coolest thing is that we all get to watch one another grow. But for me, watching your thing just become its own world.
I feel the exact same way about you, watching you grow. But I do have a question for you, if I may.
What?
Where is the vacation show in a year, 2 years? Like, what's the plan?
Bigger and bigger distribution, television and or streaming, and to more and more exciting places throughout the world. That's all I can tell you at this point. Dun, dun, dun.
Guest or owner facing? Like what?
Maybe a little bit of both. we have a couple new series, new shows in the works.
Steve Milo, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, man.
So we're exploring various different ways of telling the vacation rental story and doing what we enjoy most, which is going and meeting these people in their elements.
I'm getting your autograph before I leave here tonight because I want to make sure that if you get so big so quickly that you don't answer my calls anymore, then I want to have it.
Yes, and this is to the person who I had to track down over the course of a year to get an interview.
That's absolutely not true.
And I actually had to throw an entire cocktail party just to have you physically sitting here.
Well, cocktails help. It's just an effective way.
I normally end these podcasts with a high five, but I think we should hug.
Oh my God!
Don't you? It's not going to sound as good.
Yeah, we have to do like a hug sound.
Sounds great. Yeah. Get some, yeah.
They're
The
hugging.
sound of love. There we go.
All right, cocktails.
First ever live podcast.
First ever live podcast with Heather and Simon and... Hey folks, thanks for listening. I just wanted to remind everyone that this episode was brought to you by Point Central, the home automation experts of our industry. You can head over to pointcentral.com/VRMB, fill out the form and take a free demo. You'll also get free HVAC analytics, and I can promise you that Sean's team will take great care.